Welcome to All Can, No Can't, the podcast where we toss out excuses, face our fears, and reclaim control. I'm Jeff Luther, your guide to mastering the chaos and turning obstacles into opportunities. Whether you're an entrepreneur navigating the ups and the downs of building a successful business or someone ready to rewrite the rules of your life, this is your space to grow, to push boundaries, and to embrace doing the hard shit that leads to greatness. Together, we'll explore stories of resilience, strategies for overcoming, and the mindset shifts that let you build a life on your terms. I use my experience with a life-altering diagnosis to help you find the can in every can't. So buckle up, because it's time to stop living in can't and start thriving in all can. You choose. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. So this episode is going to be on technology, since I'm the expert.
No idea. It's wanting me to go in and change settings on my computer and master override stuff so that I let the mic and the stuff, and then it wants me to sign up for Descript account and pay money, and it's like,
Oh, wow. Yeah. Sorry
God,
about that.
this is
Never.
owned by Descript now. You need a Descript account, and it's like, I don't know, man. I couldn't get through,
Yes.
and
Sorry.
I do have a Descript account, but I didn't have the paid version, so didn't want to go through.
Um, I don't know. Um, it's recording now. So how
Cool.
does everything sound on your end?
Everything sounds good on my side.
All right, man. You sound good on my side too. Thanks
Cool.
for this. And hey, thank you for your patience.
Oh,
It's
good. Work through stuff. I had the time blocked off anyway, so
yeah, awesome. And how do you pronounce your last name? Moore?
more
Okay.
or less.
Okay. Yeah, I've worked myself up. I was like, it's got to be more. I was like, maybe it's Moët or
No,
it's
it's just
French,
more.
French
Yeah, no,
Canadian.
no. I speak French, but it's not French Canadian.
All right. Um, I've got a couple of questions, just giving you kind of the rundown. What I like to do is just talk.
Yeah, good
I
with
think
that.
it's much more organic.
Yeah,
Um, I just took your bio off your Matchmaker bio. It makes
cool,
you sound really good.
awesome.
And then I want to ask some questions about your framework about moving from operator to owner, and then talk about businesses being different. If a business is a disaster, how long should they start planning if they want to sell it? Elevator pitch for why someone should sell their business. Um, and is there an incentive not to sell your business? Then I want to talk a little bit about Kolbe. That's probably actually going to be too much once we
Yeah,
get
I'd
going.
say we're not going to probably get to Colby in this one
Yeah.
if you want to go through those other ones.
Okay.
Yeah,
Which is fine. Which is fine with me.
yeah, it's good with me
Cool.
too.
All right, man. I'll go ahead and start.
Cool.
Welcome back to the Service Business Blueprint, where we share tools, tips, and strategies to achieve your personal and business goals and overcome mindset obstacles. I'm your host, Jeff Luther, and we're lucky enough today to have a guest on our show that's an entrepreneur, a business coach. He's also a podcast host. Pete Mohr, he's the founder of Simplifying Entrepreneurship that coaches in business breakthroughs. Pete is also a certified exit planning associate, which is important to us, as well as a Kolbe certified consultant. So, Pete, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Jeff. I'm excited to be with you and the listeners today.
Awesome. So I just want to dive right in. There's so much
Yeah.
you have, like, this really wide and deep resume. So I want to make sure we get some of the more interesting pieces covered. It's all interesting, but hit some high points here.
Yeah.
Um, All right, so you've got this company that you started, and well, one, you're an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
so we know,
Lifelong.
yeah, yeah. I know that you're still in it. Oftentimes, I have folks on the show that have been, or maybe got into business for a little while, got out, and then they started doing coaching. So you're doing kind of double duty here.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your stores.
Well, we own a couple of shoe stores called Shoetopia here in Canada, and I've had those since 2010, and so still operate those. In fact, I just came back from there, and now we were doing some buying for next fall. Believe it or not, where you mean as we record this here in December, I'm already buying footwear for next fall. But that's how
Oh,
far in
wow.
advance you need to go do some of that stuff. So I went and met my purchasing person and store manager, and we kind of make decisions as a group about what we want to move ahead with. But for the most part, Jeff, I coach to moving from operator to owner of your store, and I don't really make many of those decisions anymore. I just kind of come in and sort of add a couple little pieces. But really, I've got things set up so that other people are making those decisions in my stores, and that's why I'm here today, able to chat with you because that's what I coach to. It's my feeling that and I've had a lot of businesses, as I mentioned, for 30 years. We've had service businesses. I had multiple truck operations for the first 15 years of my business with bathroom renovation companies and cleaning franchises. And the last half of my career here has been in retail, but also coaching. And so I've seen sort of a variety of different things, but ultimately, I think most people, Jeff, get into business because they have this dream of a better life, right? And if that better
Freedom.
life looks like 70 or 80 hours a week working in your business, then you're in it. But if that's really not your better life, then I think this will be a good chat.
Yeah. Yeah. I always talk about that. I mean, it's a high point. I got in it because I wanted the freedom of owning my own
Yeah, yeah,
business.
yeah.
Really? You wanted the freedom to be the marketer, the bookkeeper, the
Mhm.
janitor, the
Yeah.
CEO, the COO, the freedom to work 80 hours a week? Yeah.
Man,
Um,
I mean, like you've climbed the ladders, done the stuff. It's like I've done that too. I mean, I have cleaned more urinals than you could ever imagine in my lifetime. And getting going in business, we have to do this stuff. We've
that's the
got to,
key. Yes,
we've
getting
got
going.
to
Yep.
get in there and do it. I mean, that's part of startup.
Yeah.
But once you get over that startup, there's more to it. And you end up having these sort of blocking areas that don't let you crest over those different areas of growth. And I think there's seasons in most businesses where we're busier at given times and where we can sort of take back a little bit of our time at given times, and that's normal for most businesses. But if you're busy all the time and you're flat out 70, 80 hours a week all the time, we got some work to do.
Yeah. And it leads to burnout.
Gosh,
It's
yeah.
accelerated. But yeah, you find those, it's like finding those gaps, right? You just have to know when to shoot and pull some of that time back.
Yeah.
But you have a framework built out. You've got a framework that you coach on, which is about moving from operator to owner. And I want to talk about this.
Mm.
A lot of our listeners are, home service businesses. I own
Yeah.
a home inspection company, so I've got home inspection companies that listen, and a majority are what we would call mom and pop,
Mm.
and sometimes that term carries a negative connotation, and I would caution against that. But a lot of folks don't see these as different things, operator and owner. They see it as business owner that works 80 hours a week, period. um,
They do.
what I'd like to talk about is one, in your experience, not when to make that switch, because it's like when's the perfect time to have a baby? Never. Or right now, depending on how you look at it. But what would you say if you had, could you give me three signs that, hey, man, it's time. It's time to go from operator to owner. Need to
Yeah.
start thinking about that.
Well, a couple things. One, we talked about family, and part of being a business owner, I don't believe there's any delineation of family life and business life. I mean, I think there's times where you can spend more time with your family, and there's time where you need to spend more time with your business, but you can't just completely separate them like everybody talks
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
We are business owners, and our lives and our businesses do blend together. And I think the real thing is whatever your comfort level is of having that mix is what we're talking about here. And at certain stages of life, it's just not good enough. And I think if you're feeling that, where you're just not feeling that comfort level of enjoying other things and maybe getting burnt out with work, maybe getting tired with work, maybe thinking about, oh, it's time to sell. Whatever the case is, if you're getting to that point, then this is one of the things that will help you sort of realize that I've got some work to do. And it usually revolves around, I haven't seen my kids at one of my kids' hockey games this winter. I haven't gone to baseball. I haven't gone to dance recital. I haven't even been to church, or I haven't gone to, I have no time for myself. I used to like playing music and I haven't picked up my guitar in 4 years. These kind of things are sort of the things that ring true for a lot of people that are at this stage, because they've grown to a certain limit in their business where they can't make any more decisions. Their decision-making juices are full.
Meaning
And
they're mentally
yep,
taxed.
yep,
Yeah, they just can't, they're
and
just
physically,
like, yeah,
right.
yeah,
And it's just like there's only so many decision-making juices in a day.
yeah.
And if yours are all used before 8 o'clock in the morning, there's a problem.
Which route to take to work usually stresses me out now.
Like I said, I used to run a multiple truck operation. It's like the guys were already out on the road by 8 o'clock in the morning, and I already knew what was going on and stuff like that back in those days.
Yeah,
And I could tell whether it was going to be a good day or whether it was going to be a crappy day before they even left the shop.
yeah,
And so we need to get through some of these things, and we can't do it all ourselves. If, like you said, if you're the bookkeeper, if you're the general sales manager, if you're
yeah,
the general operations manager of the business, is growing business, and even if it's just you yourself and that's it, but now what am I going to do to get some help?
yeah,
So if we flip it back to home inspection, well, if you're doing the book work and if you're doing the sales and if you're doing the marketing and you're doing all this other stuff, what is the thing that you don't like to do? And let's start laying that out. And with the 5P process that we've talked a little bit about, you kind of introduced a little bit. I wrote a
yeah,
book on it. It's called The Business Owner Breakthrough. But really, it's these are the 5Ps, and we can kind of interject them into the conversation.
yeah,
First is understand what your promise is to your clients so that you can align your product, your process, and your people to that promise. And when you do, with the alignment, you're going to have the right amount of profit. So it starts with having the right promise. Most people have
I'm
bought some.
taking notes.
Yeah,
Talk
sure.
slower.
Most people have bought some shoes before, right? So I'll use my shoe store as an
All
example.
right,
Our,
let's do
our
it.
promise at Shoetopia is to help people look great and feel fantastic.
Okay.
That's our promise. So if they come in the store and we can help them through that, and at the end of that experience, they look great and feel fantastic, we have delivered our promise.
Yeah.
So how do we deliver that promise? Well, I told you I just came back from a little buying for next year. When we look at their product, which is the first P, the product, and if
Yep.
you're a service-based business, it would be the service, right? But we're just using the word product
Which
here.
is still a product for
Yeah,
for those
right.
that want to get technical. That's your
For
product.
sure. So the product, I'm looking at all of these boots, and my team is too, and we're thinking about our customers, and we're saying, is this going to help them look great and feel fantastic? And sometimes it's, oh, this one looks great, but it's not the best fitter or whatever the case is, so we're not going to take that. This one really fits well, but it doesn't look so great. Probably won't take that. We're always thinking about the customer in mind, whatever product we buy, and thinking about and literally naming that customer, saying, oh, Mrs. Jones would buy that. Oh, Mr. Smith would buy that. And so
Yeah.
if we can put it in our head and reflect it back upon the questions that people ask us, then we're buying the right product.
Right.
That's the first piece, the alignment of the product. The second piece is the alignment of the process. And I help a lot of the customers with alignment of process, because the process, for the most part, is in the owner's head.
Right. Yep.
And you can see, for anybody who's watching this video, I don't have much hair left because I've already pulled it all out.
Trying to get
I've
that
done this
process out of
for,
there.
it's like 30 years, right?
Yeah.
So, and we need good, clear process. Things don't happen without us unless there is good, clear process. It has to be written down in a form. It has to be in video content. It has to be audio. It has to be written down, because people learn in different ways.
Hmm.
And if you don't have it, if you can't give them the information in the way they learn, they're never going to learn it and be able to take it off your plate.
Right.
And so we need to start laying out process. And that process could be, how do we answer the phone? How do we open the store in the morning? How do we make a sales call? How do we fit somebody with shoes? How do we climb a ladder properly? Like whatever the case
Yeah.
is, it's all the different pieces of process in your business have to be outlined and detailed in a way that someone else can do them without you being there.
Right. Yep.
And
The
then I've got,
playbook, the manual you can pass off, right?
that's it. But it
Yeah.
can't just stay in somebody's, the back of the truck, not to
Yeah.
be looked at.
Yeah.
It has to be in a format that can be used, can be accessible at any given time whenever they need to make that call without you.
Right.
It has to be available. It has to be easily understood, and it has to have a systemized steps that are going to take them through that decision without your involvement. That's the aligning and assigning part of process, which is getting it to the right person so that they can make the decision without you. So we've got, first of all, starts with your promise, aligning those products, aligning all the process, which for most small business owners is in bad shape.
Yeah.
Then we need to align the people. And the people, I break it down into three different categories. One is your ideal customer, and I'm sure you've done a lot of stuff on your ideal customer. I'm talking to you, the listener here today. You know your ideal customer, you know who you're going after. So I'm not going to spend too much time there. But the other ones are your ideal teammate. So who else would be an ideal candidate to work with you in order to deliver your promise? They need to know what the promise is and they need to help you deliver the promise as well. Third one is any outsourced supplier that's helping you deliver your promise. So if we look at it from that perspective, who are the other people that make and deliver your customer promise as part of your offering?
So of those three, we've got the customer,
Yep.
we've
Your
got
team.
your team, your all the employees,
Yeah.
and
And
then
any
we've
other outsourced supplier. Like I'll
yeah,
use
like
an
your
example.
vendor or whatever.
We use a virtual assistant for a lot of our graphics. Both for my coaching company and for my retail stores. And
Okay.
she's part of our team, but she's an outsourced supplier,
Right.
but she's also part of our team.
Yeah.
So, and she is an ideal person. She does a wonderful job for us, and we're thrilled to have her. She is the perfect candidate for that. So, how are you finding? How are you recruiting? How are you addressing all of that? How are you aligning your process? Because they aren't in your head. They need to have the process they can follow in your culture and your rhythm and all of the different things so that they can act on your behalf when you're not available.
Yeah.
And once we have these alignments, then we have the right amount of profit. And the profit in the business is what buys your freedom. If you want to
Right.
keep more profit, you work harder and you keep the profit. But the other way of doing it is saying, okay, well, I'm going to take a chunk of this profit and I'm going to hire somebody else to do some of the stuff that I don't want to do anymore. And I'm going to unload that to somebody else because I have the right process, I have the right people, I have enough profit to do that. And now I can free myself up. And in my case, with the shoe store, for example, it frees myself up to do something that I really love to do, which is coach other entrepreneurs.
Right. Yeah. And in relative to my business or my profession, a lot of folks are of the opinion, well, this is what being a business owner is all about, doing the work, putting in the hours. And a lot of them have the opinion of, well, I don't want to hire folks. That's just more headache, more to manage.
Yep.
Um, where those folks that I have ever worked with or mentored or whatever you want to call it, I'll say, all right, that makes sense to me. And I'll tell you what, the next time you go on vacation, I'll pay you 200% of what you earn while you're on vacation. Like, wait a second.
Give them 1,000 times.
Yeah. And that goes back to what you were talking about, like with family. You want to spend more time with your family. When I started my business early on, if I was spending time with my family, it's because shit wasn't good in my business.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then when I had the time to do anything in my business, it was because I didn't have the money. So I had the time and not the money. Then when I had the money, it was because I was working all the time. And it was always this perpetual cycle of too much time, not enough money, too much money, not enough time. So could you give advice, not advice, could you give experience share on what is a good formula for breaking this down into smaller pieces? You don't have to go all at once, do you?
I like to, I've got this it's a worksheet basically that I use with most of my clients called Love It or Leave It, Jeff.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure it's still a download if you want to, if anybody here wants to download it, simplifyingentrepreneurship.com/love it. And we can confirm that for show notes. But, basically the idea here is that you list everything that you personally are accountable for. You'll get most of them in the first draft, like 80% of them in the first draft of what you do
Okay.
at work, right?
Yeah.
And then you leave it out there for another 2 weeks or so is what I usually recommend because there's all kinds of stuff that you do just occasionally that you'll forget you're still accountable for.
Leave it, so fill it out and then like leave it sitting on your desk where you
Yeah,
can
at the
see.
end of
Okay.
every
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
just spend
All right.
another 5 minutes and then tack in those three things that you forgot about. And you're like, oh, yeah, I have to do that too. Oh, yeah, I have to do that too. So you're listing all of the things you're personally accountable for. And then what we do is we go over and we recategorize all of those things onto a different sheet in 4 quadrants. And one of them is, I really am good at this and I love doing it.
Yeah.
The other one's, I'm really good at this, but I don't love doing it.
Right.
The other one is, I really love doing this, but I'm not so good at it. And the other one is, I really don't like doing it and I'm not good at it.
Right.
And so what we find is that most small business owners are not living in that first box very much, which is I love it and I'm good at it.
Yeah.
A lot of the times they're living in the second box, which is I'm good at it and I don't love it. You talked about burnout.
Yep.
That's burnout right there,
Yeah.
right? I'm good
Yeah.
at it and I know I'm good at it, but I really just don't like it.
Yep.
So, what we start doing is we start laying out, and it's not precise, but the idea is in each of these boxes, how much time are you spending? So, a lot of times you'll see that first box where people are spending like 10, 20% of their time there. The second box, they spend like 50% of their time. And
Yeah.
then those bottom two boxes are spending, 30, 40% of their time, depending on the business owner. But we need to get rid of the last box, which is I'm not good at it and I don't like it
Yep.
first, right? And
Yep.
then the ones, you're the business owner. So if you really like something and you're not good at it, but you really want to spend some time in there, you should be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's your business. And if that's what you actually want to do, then you should be able to spend some time there. I wouldn't advise spending a ton of time there, but spend some.
But here's what happens. Here's what happens with the entrepreneur, in my experience and experience with other folks, is entrepreneurs, small business, blue collar work is measured in how much dirt you take out of a ditch, right? So as entrepreneurs, you get bogged down in the I don't like to do it quadrant. And the reason is because if I don't like to do it, no one else likes to do it. And I'm the owner of this business. So I should be the one doing the difficult things. And is that our highest and best use?
Well, I've already mentioned in the podcast, I probably have cleaned more urinals than you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
I've been there. I mean, and I think that's part of it. But there comes a time where you basically say, this isn't in my best use of time.
Yeah.
And I am a better salesperson or a better manager or a better marketer or a better whatever else it is. And I like doing that even more
Yeah.
because I'll tell you what, there's somebody else out there that really loves to hop on an excavator and dig that hole.
Yep. Yep.
And they're maybe even better than you at it and they love doing it. So why wouldn't you give them that job so they can be more effective than you ever were and they love what they do and it gets you off the excavator and into something else that you truly love to do? This is a way we grow, Jeff. That's the
Right.
way that growth happens when everybody's working in their area of expertise, interest, and when they love what they do. That's when you have people that stay in your business forever. And, that kind of stuff is hard to find, but when you find it, you know it. And that's the stuff that helps your business roll through. So those people that say, oh, I never want to find, or I could never hire anybody. I'll use bookkeeping as an example. because a lot of small business owners still do their own books.
Hmm.
I can do books. I have two business degrees. I have an MBA. I got another business degree too. I mean, like, I'm good at books. I hate doing books. Hate them. I love to look at them and get my stats and what I want out of them, and I'm very good at picking off the irregularities and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But do I want to balance the visa? Uh-uh.
Mm-mm.
But I'll tell you, my bookkeeper woohoos when she balances. She's like, woohoo. I'm like, what just
Yeah.
happened? She goes, oh, I just balanced the visa for the month. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh
Find
my
someone
God.
that loves zero, right?
Right. Like, and I'm thinking, balance the visa. I don't want to spend 2 hours of my life doing that.
Yeah.
And she's like, woohoo, balanced it.
Yeah.
So other people, just because you don't like to do something doesn't mean there isn't somebody else out there that loves to do it.
Right.
And when you find that person, you keep looking for them until you find that right person. They're going to be in the right spot and you're going to be in the right spot.
Yeah. So a couple of takeaways from what you've just told us. Um, One is if you're not allowing other folks in the organization to grow, not everyone loves what you love and not everyone hates what you hate. But if you're not allowing other folks in the organization to grow, that's not for the greater good, right?
Not at all.
And then we don't have to do everything. And when we do, it stifles the growth of the company. And then we're doing everybody that took a risk and hopped on board with us, we're doing them all a disservice too, if I heard you correctly.
Yeah, you did. People want to grow
Um,
with you. Your team
yeah,
wants to grow with you.
yeah,
Here's another thing when we talk about accountability and we start, aligning and assigning accountability to other people other than us. People actually want to make decisions. They do.
yeah, yeah, they
And
do.
most small business owners are like, well, I just have to make the decision. I just have to make the decision. It's like, no, you used to have to make the decision when you were a one-man show or whatever the case was to get the ball going. But now that you're at a position where you're working 70 hours a week and you'd like to work 40, you need to fill 30 hours.
Yeah,
So fill the 30 hours and actually align and assign the accountability to someone else and let them make the call.
yeah,
Because if you don't, you're never going to be free. You're still going to be answering the phone. You're still going to be answering that text when you're away on vacation, right? You're still going to be
right.
doing all when being away in a different area is nice, but if you're away on vacation and your phone's attached to your hip and in your hand the whole time, that's not a vacation.
It just becomes resentful at that point. And
Yeah.
so often I used to say, vacation is such a moving target. You might hit it, you might not. Um, So shifting gears a little bit to exit planning.
Yeah.
Let's say I know every business is different.
Yep.
Um, but for example, in the home inspection profession, a lot of these folks are it's just a one-man shop, or maybe mom and pop where the partner might answer the phone and then
Yeah.
the inspector go out and do the work. So when they get close to that retirement age or get sick of it or whatever it is, they're ready
Yeah.
to sell.
Mm.
And I've had numerous folks approach me over my 20 years, 25 years that want to sell their business, but it's just this one person.
Mhm.
I'm like, well, what are you selling?
Yeah.
It's just a phone number.
There's some truth to that, Jeff. And which is one of the things, when people, if they're at the early stage of their business here in your home inspector or your one-man show type business, plumber or whatever it is, doesn't really matter.
Right?
If part of your exit strategy down the road is to think that you ever do want to sell your business, you need to start thinking about this now because exit planning is just good business strategy. You don't start
Yeah.
thinking about your exit when you're 2 months away from wanting to exit. You have to start
Right.
thinking about it way before.
Yeah.
And if you think that your business is part of your exit plan, that dollars that you're going to get, and whether your exit plan's when you're 20 years old and you want to exit that business to buy your next one, or whether the exit plan's when you're 65 and you want to pack it in, it doesn't matter because everybody exits for different reasons. But you need to start with an idea of what this might look like at the end. And what it might look like at the end for somebody who's a solopreneur is selling your list of customers. But the problem that I see with that business is that I used to have a realtor's license, and at least at that time, the average house turned over every 7 to 10 years. which I think is probably still in the sort of same
Yeah,
range.
pretty close. Yep.
So that means if you did somebody's house inspection this year, that customer isn't returning. And if they do return, because you're still in their frame of understanding and reference, they're 7 to 10 years away.
Yeah.
So, unless your customer base and recurring revenue is a big piece of valuation when we look at the valuation.
Oh, yeah.
So unless you're working with a realtor or a mortgage team or something like that, some other referral partners that you have firm and long-lasting agreement with that you are going to be working with this new owner and introducing to, and even them, if you don't have contract bases, it's not solid. So you're selling some of these relationships, which are okay, but without contracts, it's a very hard thing to prove recurring revenue.
Yeah.
And so you really are selling sort of your built up brand, which there's something there, depending on how you can prove that. And you could prove that potentially by your customer list, your client base. How many emails do you have? How many people open them? Are they still active? All that kind of stuff. You could prove them by your website and how active that is. You could also prove it by your reviews. If you have good Google reviews and all the different reviews, that you could say that, all of that is going to add credibility and add sort of a little bit of brand awareness. But if you're thinking you're a one-man show and you're going to exit for $500,000, unless you've got a couple of $500,000 Mercedes vans as part of the package, probably not going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Um, so it leads me to another question. On this one, I'm very interested. I'm just interested to hear it from the professional's perspective. All businesses are going to be different, right? But let's say we
Yeah.
have one, let's say it's a disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, the business is going well. There's some profit to be taken out. We've got employees, so we're not doing everything on our own. But things like kids' phones are being paid for out of the
Oh, yeah.
company. Yeah, I mean, you know the drill, right?
Oh,
Kids'
yeah.
phones, kids' car insurance is coming out of it. We're paying for our Sam's Club membership out of our business. Matter of fact, we're going to Sam's and paying for it with the company card. All of those things,
Mhm.
everything wrong.
Yep.
How long, if someone says, "Hey, I'm thinking that I'm going to sell this thing and that's going to be my retirement." How long does a business that's in that kind of condition? How long would you say, "Hey, if you're going to do that, you need to straighten your ass up and you
Mhm.
need to straighten your ass up for at least 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 1 year?" What's the time frame
Three.
there?
3.
3 years?
Yeah, is the most common.
Okay.
When we look at the sort of overall ratings, the last year is the most important. Let's say 50% is going to be based on your last year,
Okay.
and then 30% on your second year and 20% on your third year, if you just kind of give it an overall outlook. So, here's the other piece of the puzzle. If you had your least profitable year this year, let's say you made 100 grand this year, and last year you made 200 grand, and the year before you made 300 grand, that's the
Mm,
reciprocal of what you want to see as far as building
yeah.
multiples. So you might have some work to do to show more profit in the business. One of the ways you may show more profit is just like we were talking about. But here's the other thing: you don't necessarily need to pull all of that stuff out of your business and show it on the paper. You just need to have to be able to account for it. So what we do is on when we go and get ready to list a business, and I no longer am a business broker, but I used to be. So, when we actually go to list those businesses, what we do is we call their recasted earnings. So we're going to
Okay.
put a lot
Yeah.
of that stuff back in. The problem is if you took a trip to whatever, Europe 3 years ago, and expensed $25,000 to go to a trade show in Europe 3 years ago, and you really can't prove that that's all the case, they're not going to pay you for that.
That wouldn't be an ad back.
Uh-uh.
Oh, okay.
So you need to be able to prove everything.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about, like, I had one customer that had his motorhome in the business. So there's all kinds of income and
Yeah.
expense stuff on the or on the profit and loss sheet that needs to be recast, but there's also stuff on the balance sheet that needs to be
Yeah.
recast. You have like I said, I used the idea of a couple of Mercedes vans, but I've got a kid in the trades, and one of the Mercedes vans that they have in his business now that my son's driving is his old personal vehicle. It was more like a one for his family that they ended up rolling into the business at a later date as he's bought a new one. That's fine, but he was
Yeah.
actually expensing the new one too, that for the couple of years before my son got it as an actual work truck.
Yeah.
So if you're taking that 20 or $30,000 out that you're is really got nothing to do with the business over the course of a couple of years, and think about multiples now. You also said earlier in the podcast, I'll give you 200% of zero, which means
Right. Yeah.
zero.
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to give you multiples on stuff that is an expense. So
Right.
if you can't prove that that wasn't a part of your business, then and that, let's say that was 20 or $30,000. Well, if your multiple's three and it was a $30,000 expense, that's $90,000 worth of value that you're leaving on the table
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
when you go to sell. Same with the kids'
Yeah.
phones and all this other stuff. Like all of these things need to be pulled out. They need to be very detailed and you have to prove all this stuff because most small business owners have no idea what's involved in due diligence. But I can tell you when somebody's going to pay whatever they're going to pay for your business, they are going to rip it apart. And
That's
that's
the
one of,
intent.
yeah.
It's just like going and buying a used car from someone. You want to find everything that's wrong with it.
That's
That's
my job as a working with people for exit planning is that I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what they're going to start looking for so that you
yeah.
can, and you might as well hear it from me because you're going to hear it from somebody looking at your business. And these are the things that cause deals to go down.
Yeah. Um yeah, what would be some of the top red flags if you're looking
Oh,
to
oh,
purchase?
yeah. I mean, that's a big one because everybody's like, well, how much money does it make?
Yeah.
I had a call with a retailer the other day. He said, "Well, I've been in business 25 years." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome. Good for you and good business." And he goes, "I'm like, yeah." And he goes, "And we do, $700,000." And oh, good, good. How much do you make? Well, last year we made 25,000. The year before 18,000. The year before 40,000. And I
Oh
said,
my gosh.
"Okay, is that your business profit or is that what you took home?" And he said, "I don't know." This is very normal. Jeff.
Really?
Very normal. A lot of small business owners out there don't understand their numbers, right? So on
Yeah.
paper, he made 25,000. But when you start digging into it, it's like, okay, well, did you have your car in there? Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Well, we have to take that out. Did you have, like, do you
Health
actually need
insurance, all the
yeah.
things.
Do
Yeah.
you need that car to run your retail store? Well, no, but I'm running it through because I want to lower my, taxable income. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's actually a net earn. So we have to put this back in. And, so we start looking through all this stuff and this $25,000 now becomes like 110. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, if we're doing multiples on 25,000 or multiples on 110, that's a very big different picture.
Yeah.
So, but most small business owners they don't understand that. So that's part of the job of getting through some of this stuff to have them understand what it's going to look like. And sometimes it doesn't look good. And it's like
Right.
just because you've been in business for 25 years doesn't mean that your
Doesn't mean
business has
it's,
value.
and no one's going to pay for longevity. If you're buying a business, wow, this business, it only cranks out $40,000 of profit every year, but golly, they've been in business for 30 years. I should really buy that. Those 30 years, they've been getting that profit. As the new owner coming in, I'm not getting any advantage off of that.
The owners, when we look at some of those longevity things, that's more sort of the current owner cares about that stuff. The new owner doesn't, and it's
Right.
an add-on. It's like, oh, it's great. This business has been around for 25 years, so that's good. But it needs to make sense first,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
There's no, yeah.
So part of that sort of due diligence piece is let's unwrap it and
Yeah.
see if this whole thing makes sense. Because is it a rose or is it an onion?
Right.
And like so many small business owners, Jeff, think their business is a rose and it's not. It's a
Oh
job.
yeah. It's their baby. Don't you dare tell me my baby's ugly. How dare you? And
And
go
here's
ahead.
another thing. And I'll throw this out because I think this is real. I'm talking to you, the listener now. Um, if you think your business is worth whatever you think it's worth, let's say it's worth your business is worth $500,000, but you're the sole owner of it, and you're pulling $80,000 a year out of that business. Do you not think that somebody else, and we'll use the home inspector side of things, do you not think that somebody else could go to work for another home inspection company for 70 or $80,000 a year and not even put a dime into the business and go home on the weekend and have no worries, no receivables, no like,
Yeah.
but just because it's yours and you've been at it for a long time, you think it's worth 500,000. Where did that number come from? Did it come from somebody that you knew on the golf course that sold their business for 500,000? Like without sort of this idea of let's dig
Yeah.
into it and let's go through a process that actually dictates a range of value. Most small business owners, have a very unrealistic idea of what their business could actually sell for.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times, for a while in my profession, the number was one-time revenue. So whatever that revenue was, because a lot of these companies were consuming, they wanted to grow by acquisition. So they were consuming smaller companies,
Yeah.
thinking one-time revenue. Well, that turned out to be a pretty poor assessment of value because there was this word, uh, profit, I think is the word. The one that's critical in business.
Yep.
What is it? Greg Crabtree says revenue is vanity, profit is sanity.
Sanity.
But
Yeah.
we're always talking revenue. We're always talking. That's the cocktail talk, right? How much revenue do you generate? So
Now that's why the last of the five P's is profit, not revenue.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the only thing.
Yeah.
The bank doesn't care about revenue.
No,
They care
and
about your
honestly, if
profit.
you're looking to sell your business, the new potential owner doesn't really care about revenue either. If they're a good business person, they want to see the line to profit because that's all
Right.
that really
Yep.
matters.
Yeah. Um, Pete, this has been great. Tell us how we get in touch with you if we want to learn more.
Sure. Best way is just to hop over to my site. It's Pete-Mohr. So Mohr is the correct spelling of my last name. So Pete-Mohr.com. I've got several different sites there, so you can get to them all through that one site. And there's one on exit planning, one on simplifying entrepreneurship, one on my podcast too. So lots of different stuff, all kinds of free downloads to help you through your journey as a business owner. And, I think the number one thing that you want to do, it really is to understand the valuation of your business. And to do that, you can just hop on over to the Exit Ready Business, which is one of those sites, and take the Value Builder assessment. It takes about
Okay.
15 minutes to do. And you don't have to put your numbers in. You can if you want to talk numbers, but you don't have to put your numbers in. And it just really grades you, Jeff, on how ready are you to exit your business.
Yeah,
And
that's the scary thing, right? Finding that scary truth.
well, you know what? It's kind of like the people that don't want to, they don't want to do a DNA test or anything in case they have cancer in their line or whatever the
Yeah.
case is. But,
Yeah.
some people actually want to know so they can take proactive measures to improve
That's the
things.
thing.
And
That's
I
the
think,
thing.
I think that's what we're talking about here today.
Yeah.
The one thing is you need a benchmark. And if that benchmark comes back and you're excited and happy about it, good. That's what a great feeling that is. And if the benchmark comes back and you're like, I think I need a little bit more than that, then that just means you got to go to work. Well, what's different? We're business owners, man. We
Right.
go to work
Yeah.
every day.
It's both of them are good news. No
Right.
matter
And
what the
now we're going
answer,
to
it's
work
good
on the
news.
business, not in it, because
Yeah.
you got to work on the business in order to build that value. And we want to
Right.
get that value to a point where we're saying, okay, at this value, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Yep.
And if it's not at that value, maybe I'm not. But wouldn't it be nice to know? It's the same with selling a stock. It's like, hey, if you bought Bitcoin at 6 grand and it's over 100 grand now, are you ready to sell? Maybe you are, maybe you aren't, but at least you know it's over 100 grand,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Now you have an idea. Yeah.
If you started your business 30 years ago and it cost you 6 grand and you have no valuation and maybe it's not even worth anything, but you think it's worth 100 grand, well, how do you know it's worth 100 grand?
Right. Yep. All right, Pete, give us that website one more time, please, sir.
Sure. So just go to pete-mohr.com and you'll find the Exit Ready business under there. You'll find the other ones too for anything we've talked about today. And that's the best way to catch a hold of me. I'm always happy to chat with anybody about their struggles in business.
Awesome. And thanks for your time, Pete. I am Jeff Luther with Service Business Blueprint, and I can't wait to see you guys next time. Thanks for listening to All Can, No Can't. If today's episode resonated with you, remember, it's not about the chaos you face. It's about how you choose to take back control. It's about finding that one small can in the can't you're given and grinding it down. Find your angle, carve your place out in the world, and get the fucking win. Do that by finding what you can do and not listening to what you can't. You choose. Be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Your support helps me reach more people that are ready to embrace the all-can mindset. And it lets them know there's someone that's willing to walk with them no matter how dark the path gets. You can find me on Insta at JDLuther 2.0 and allcan_no-can't. This is where I share more tips, stories, inspiration to help fuel your journey. And until next time, keep pushing boundaries, breaking limits, proving to yourself that anything is possible, even when you're told it isn't. Remember, life's not about can't. It's all can. Go prove them wrong.